Tyler Tessman is a student teacher at Skyview Middle School. He works along with Ms. Stripe, an 8th grade language arts teacher for Team A. Mr. Tessman was not always striving to become a teacher. At one point, he was a young lieutenant that left the Army as a captain.
The branch of the military that I was in was the Army. I went in as a lieutenant, and by the time I was out, I was a captain in the Army. Originally, I'm from Wisconsin, a really small town called Cambria of like 700 people.
After graduating from college, Mr. Tessman entered the Army as lieutenant. He wanted to work with the youth. His friend told him about it and motivated him to join the Army.
My motivation was actually to work with young people like you. I had some friends from high school. They went straight into the military, and I talked to them after the summer. They did their basic training, and they were saying how much they liked it, and they said that if I was going to do it, I should do the officer route. So I looked into it, and I decided to join. I wanted to be able to impact the lives of the young soldiers. I was always in leadership positions in high school, like I was captain of the football team, president of student council, so I knew what it was to lead, and I knew how to kind of interact with people, and so I thought that I could serve well in that. I was in from 2012 until 2016. So after college and I commissioned as an officer, I went down to Fort Benning for almost a year, where I attended different training, the Armor Officer Basic Leader course, Airborne School, the Army Reconnaissance Course, Joint Base Lewis McChord, south of Seattle, Washington.
Mr. Tessman carried up to 70 pounds of added weight. Sometimes he also had to carry another person with all of their weight added.
Well, at different times the gear varies in weight. Like some training exercise we do, it's not that bad. So we used a lot of different equipment. Most of it is vehicle-based. We had our tanks, obviously, when I learned the tank side of things. And then on the reconnaissance side, we worked with Humvees, which are like the Army Jeeps. And then a vehicle called a Striker, which is like an 8-wheeled, it looks like a boat kind of thing, like what you'd see for the beach landings in Normandy almost, kind of like a boat-shaped thing. And you can fit like 11 dismounted soldiers inside, so it's like a little mini bus with armor all over it. And then on top of that, we had our weapons systems, and we have different optics. Being in a reconnaissance unit, we had this thing called the LRAS, which is basically like a super high-tech binocular system. There might be times in battle where the enemy doesn't fight fair, and they use biological or chemical weapons. So we'd have to put on gas masks, heavy coats, the boots, all the gear that's meant to protect us from that. Training on how to take care of an injured person. The first thing you want to do on the battlefield when somebody's injured is get them out of the fight so that they can't get injured further, and they can get pulled to a safe spot for the medics to come in and do their thing. So oftentimes when we did any kind of medical training, we had to do different types of carries of how to get people out of the fire. So it was always tough, especially depending on their injury and what's available to you, what's nearby. You might be carrying somebody by yourself, and that person might have all their body armor on, and you have all your body armor on. Or you might be in different protective gear because you're in a chemical or biological contaminated environment, and then you have like a gas mask on and a heavy jacket and pants. And it's just any way in training to make it harder, we do it, because you have to be ready for the real thing, whatever the circumstances.
Mr. Tessman had to complete tough training. One such training he went through included surviving a mock gas chamber. There was a doctor making the gas powder in the chamber. The doctor put the powder on the fire to make the gas expand. The doctor was very intense, which added to Mr. Tessman's nervousness.
Gas chamber for training, or a lot of times it was tent, and they'd be mixing up this nasty concoction of, I don't know what's in it, but it's called CS gas, and it would burn and irritate the skin, and you feel like you're suffocating. Very much like a witch doctor, because the room's full of gas, you can hardly see, there's kind of like this red glow. But the reason that they do that is you go into the gas chamber or the tent with your mask on first, so you experience what it's like to be in there with your mask on. And you might not think it's working because it's still like hard to breathe through the mask, and it still feels kind of, I don't know, just like itchy in there. But then as you take the equipment off, like you drop the hood first and you start to feel it burn on your neck. So like where your hairline is, it feels like somebody takes a razor blade and just like cuts across because the chemicals they're burning are just so. But then you're like, okay, like my equipment does work. And then you take off the mask and they ask you these questions to make sure that you breathe in the CS gas. All in all, we're probably only in there 5 minutes because you can't really withstand it that long. Once you take off the mask, they start asking you questions. I think they asked me my name, which I was able to look through, and then they asked what college I went. And I started saying the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I got to like the unit, and I was like, oh, I should have just said UW. What was I thinking? So I managed to like choke out maybe University of, and then they told me to get out because I couldn't function. I couldn't answer their questions. Oh, and I left the tent. I just buckled over and was dry heaving. You're supposed to like walk around and flap your arms to like get all the chemical off of you. I just like went and started basically throwing up. It's terrible, but it does teach you that your equipment works because you were in there before with your equipment on and you were still able to function. But once it comes off, it's a different story.
Mr. Tessman completed further training, including skydiving. Members of the skydiving team had 4 seconds of free fall before the parachute was fully deployed. He was told not to fall over the trees because the chute would get stuck, and the Army did not want their soldiers to get hurt.
I went to Airborne School where I learned how to jump out of planes. Gravity does most of the work, so it's pretty easy. Okay, so when I went to Airborne School, I really just got my normal, like, you're in the Army now pay. But you also can get what's called hazardous duty pay, meaning if you're doing something extra dangerous, they pay you more. So for that whole like month I was in Airborne School, I got hazardous duty pay. You can also get it when you're like deployed or you have like a certain job. Like my brother was a bomb tech, so he always got hazardous duty pay. They were expected to disarm bombs like on fort bases, and they would like go into hotel rooms before the president showed up and like sweep it to make sure there are no bombs. So they always got it. It wasn't very comfortable. I know that sounds kind of dumb. Because you're wearing this harness, and it's just, most of the jumps we did were called combat jumps, so you carry your equipment, and like the harness is attached, your equipment's attached to the harness, and it just pulls on you in really uncomfortable spots. So I would like to go like real skydiving where there's more of a free fall, because I think that would be really fun, but at Airborne School there's maybe 4 seconds of a free fall. Before you even really know that you're falling, your parachute's opening up because it's automatically pulled when you go out the door of the plane. The person hesitating jumping out of the plane, they're scared because when you're jumping out of a plane, I think anybody who's gone skydiving or gone to Airborne School can understand the scary thing to just jump out and trust that your equipment's going to work and that you're going to know what to do if something goes wrong. They didn't really have much of an option because they got kicked out. So nobody was supposed to jump into the trees. The drop zone is over like a flat, clear surface, and you're not supposed to jump into the tree. I don't think my class had anybody end up in the tree because pretty still weather. We got lucky. There wasn't a lot of wind, but I've heard stories and seen pictures of people that end up in the trees and they're stuck hanging between the tree limbs and the ground.
Mr. Tessman got through some pretty intense training and worked his way up the ranks. He started as a lieutenant and made it all the way to a captain. After all of that, he started striving to be a teacher. He wanted to motivate the youth.
So the biggest takeaway I had from my experience in the military is it just really matured me. It grew me up. I still felt like a kid when I first commissioned and went active duty, but having to deal with the difficult situations that you're put into and just being responsible for the welfare of other soldiers and your equipment, it really makes you grow up fast. So that's a big takeaway, and then I made a lot of good friendships, developed good work ethic, just a drive to succeed in whatever I do.